Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of At the Table. Today we have a very special guest, LJ Troilo, a serial entrepreneur that has lived at the intersection of business, wellness, technology, and most importantly, human connection. He's the founder of Ivy and now starting a new company called Prana Bathhouse outside of London. In this episode, we talk about the core lessons from our shared Vipassana meditation retreat. And side note, LJ was actually the one that turned me on to it. LJ's path to building and scaling multiple companies and why third spaces are essential in a world that's becoming more and more isolated. We also explore how he's thinking about solving the loneliness epidemic and why it won't be through products, but rather through intentional design, presence, and hugs. LJ is by far one of the most unique thinkers and personalities we've had on the show. Before we recorded the podcast, we grabbed a coffee next door. And while I was ordering, he grabbed a Rubik's Cube off the counter in front of him and solved it within 60 seconds. He's a man of many talents, but also a beautiful soul. And that comes through in the episode. Hope you enjoy. I wanted to start with Vipassana because you actually introduced me to it. For those of you that are listening that don't know what Vipassana is, I'm going to let LJ kind of give like a high-level summary of, number one, how you found out about it and what pulled you into the experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an experience that I recommend to a lot of loved ones and friends. A very dear friend of mine introduced me to it. And yeah, for those that don't know, it's a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And essentially you arrive, they take your phone, no reading, no writing, no communicating with others. And you have a very kind of strict schedule that you maintain that, really just consists of waking up, meditating. You eat 2 meals, in the first half of the day. And you really just meditate throughout the day. I think it's all in all like around 10 hours of meditation a day. And it's a very, very profound experience of, stilling the mind and observing sensation in the body. That for me was very life-changing. I'm very excited to hear about your experience and kind of jump into that. I know it's something that was very profound for both of us. So
Yeah, I feel like when I've talked about it, people always ask like, in leaving, what are your obviously takeaways, but then how do you integrate successfully? And I want to hear from you at the end of this conversation, like things that have lasted and how you ultimately grew through the experience. Because to me, when you shut off the world and you are silent for 10 days, it's a little bit easier to tap in, right? Like you don't have any excuses, but when you come back to reality, like that's when the real work begins. But before we get there, I thought just talking through what I call the mini moments.
Yeah.
When you strip away all of the cheap dopamine and you don't have Instagram, you don't have fucking work emails. All you have, dude, is just life unfolding in front of you.
Exactly.
And your sensations.
Yeah.
And through that, you start to observe like much smaller details and nuances of life. So
Of course.
I know you have a story with your belt, a butterfly, and I want to hop into some of those stories.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Like the dopamine thing is really funny. It's so insane to just when you're able to still the mind for so long like that in such a pattern and routine way, like over the course of 10 days, the level of focus that you're able to sustain is like so incredible and so profound. And as far as the integration component goes, I think it's like there's both like habitual integrations and then kind of more like deeply like philosophical kind of like move through life integrations that are both interesting. I mean, for me, just to talk about, as kind of a promotion for people to do it, like the level of like focus and concentration that you can work to sustain through a practice like this. I remember the final day of the retreat, actually, before I had one of the more like profound moments on the retreat. I was watching leaves during one of the break periods. I was just watching leaves fall off of trees for like 90 minutes. And I was so happy to be doing that. Like I didn't need like I wasn't craving anything else or to be stimulated in any other way. It was just simply like sitting there in that moment and just bearing witness to the natural world was like completely it filled my cup. And I think that you're like nail on the head that is like surely like a dopamine addiction kind of thing. I mean, even now, I'd love to say that I still have that exact level of, like sustainable focus and concentration, but like I totally feel myself still being drawn to check the phone or, like have that kind of like, I think this is something that we share in common, very go, we like to achieve, we like to go out into the world and make things happen and do things. And I feel like sometimes, that energy can be either channeled super positively or sometimes can be, enacted in a way that makes us feel busy or like satiates some sort of, desire for stimulation. That I think is always good to have a check and balance on.
Yeah, totally. I think what sticks out to me about you in particular, man, is your agency. And I feel like you're somebody that I would call like scrappy, but in the best way possible. Like you get shit done.
Yeah, I love scrappy's good.
Scrappy is a great word in my opinion. And the story of you not having the ability to write anything down and using your belt as a way to get your message back, in touch with you later is a profound one. And I thought that would be a good one to share.
Yeah, that's funny. So, so you're really not supposed to read or write or do anything like that. And I really did go in with the best intentions. A lot of people said, pack a pen, pack paper, you should journal. And I was like, nah, I think I'm just going to like, go in and not do that. But to your point, I started having just, a million ideas and different things. Because when you're so still in this way, right? It's like deeper parts of you and like this creative flow. When you reduce that kind of like interference, it's almost like a lake, right? It's like when you like, if our consciousness is like a lake, sometimes, there's this interference, there's this stimulation that's like wind blowing over the lake. And it's like impossible to look through that layer of rippling because there's this wind, there's this like blowing interference and you can't kind of see to the bottom of the lake because you have all this interference, you have all this, this lack of stillness. But when you kind of can still the mind, you begin to be able to look through and see the bottom of the lake. And you can see all the debris in the lake that needs to be cleared out. And you can kind of see the beauty of the lake and you can kind of see, the innerness of your psyche in a more profound way. And then there's this whole, and I just heard this the other day and I really appreciated it, like this whole cavernous cave system under the lake that you can explore and plunge out to. And that's something I felt really connected to, especially in the experience of Vipassana. But to circle back and address that, so I was having a lot of just creative ideation. And at first I began to dedicate, I was like, I'm not going to write. I just began to dedicate an idea to every tattoo I had on my body. I was like, this is how I'm going to like try to remember, create this like thought pattern of, oh, like this means this and like this means this. But then eventually it just became like way too many things for me to.
Not enough tattoos.
Yeah, exactly. I ran out of tattoos. And so basically I had a belt. I was like, what am I going to read and write with? I was like, am I going to get like a stick and like a piece of bark from like outside? Because you went to the same location, the Massachusetts, beautiful place.
The path is unreal.
Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely beautiful. So I was like, basically had just come in from one of those little walks and I was like, oh my God, I have a leather belt and I have a nail cutter. And the nail cutter had one of those little, like nail scraper things. And so I basically etched in all of my thoughts and ideas. I wrote with the little sharp tool of the nail cutter onto the belt. And now I have a belt that looks like it's owned by someone who's very mentally ill. I just like wrote a million, because it's all in like code, because I need it, like it's all in like, it's like shorthand for all these like ideas. So it's just like really random, little scribblings. But the belt is full front and back of, many different thoughts and ideas. None of which really ever came to fruition in any way, shape, or form at all.
But probably just helps.
Still really beautiful experience nonetheless. Yeah.
It helps with that creative process just to get your ideas through and teach that channel that you will respond if
undoubtedly
if thoughts come out.
That stillness, I feel like for me is just like, and I still try to habituate my mind and still foster that on a day-to-day basis. And it's all an ebb and a flow, right? Just like finding that middle path of how can I work this into my life in the most, healthy way possible without too, and this is important for me, without trying to take on too much of it all at once and then kind of falling off completely, kind of finding that middle path of like, okay, like where can I kind of like push myself where it's like a good growth challenge without burning myself out,
The day-to-day is extremely rigid. And I went in with this idea, and I can talk more about like why I committed to this, a little bit of ego probably, but I was like, if I'm doing this, I need to do every single second of it. So gong sounds at 4 a.m., you're up, you go to bed at like 9:30 if you're lucky. And so I started to feel like super fatigued, and I don't know about you, man, but sitting in the same posture and trying to have like what they call strong determination, like you don't want to move too much,
Bro,
like you feel bad.
Yeah, of course. I know that game. Yeah.
I'm curious in your experience, like how those two things played out for you, just the fatigue and like how much you committed to within yourself.
Well, I'll tell you this. I think I overcommitted a little bit because in strong determination, even though I was having extreme pain, I was like, I'm not moving. And I ended up actually like really deeply straining a muscle in my pelvic floor.
No.
From sitting cross-legged for so long.
God.
I literally couldn't like lift weights for like 3 months.
Oh no.
After it was so funny. I was like, God damn it.
That is strong determination.
Yeah, a little too strong determination. But no, honestly, I think it was all just a part of the experience for me. I have zero regrets around that whatsoever. But yeah, like I definitely felt like those periods where, and I mean, kudos to you. I definitely think I tried to give myself a little more grace in the break periods of like, I went on a lot of walks.
Yeah, me
I'm
too,
also
me
like
too.
a very like ADHD kind of like thinker. So I was like especially fatigued. And frankly, I've always been like very, very into spirituality. And it's more and more taken like a firsthand position in my life, from like a first principles and what guides my decision making and thought processes and whatnot. But meditation is not something that comes easy to me at all. Like seated meditation for me is profoundly difficult. And I do think that putting myself in a kind of like a trial by fire, situation where I force myself to kind of really take it on in a serious way, for me was like extraordinarily helpful and like really made a huge difference. So
do you think having other people in the hall with you influenced how long you could sit for, or did ultimately you get to a place where you're like, I am going to do this because LJ wants to do this? Because there's a little bit of like social pressure too,
No,
it's like you don't want to be the
dude,
guy that has to go grab a chair. I got to the point.
Oh, dude, no, I had to move to a chair. I literally like
I was so close, bro.
Yeah, dude, I really like
with the muscle strain.
Dude,
Yeah, it sounds
I
like
actually got like an injury. I was like, can you believe that? I don't know if I even told you that before, but yeah, dude, no, that was no joke.
The other thing,
I literally,
too,
so you start like it's all the young people, for those who haven't done it, sitting on the floor on mats and pillows. By the end of the experience, I was in the back corner, so if you can picture this, the very back left corner, if you're facing the front, the back left-hand corner was where I was sitting with all the old men. By the end of it, because I was like, I'm actually going to tear a muscle if I keep doing this.
I mean, I don't blame you. I was literally the last person sitting in the back left corner.
Oh,
and they kind of like stack rank you based off of your meditation experience and like how many you've been to.
Of course.
And I was literally the last person. But I got a note literally like the last day. It was like, hey, you might die with how much you crack your knuckles.
Oh my God.
And I realized like
a note from another patron?
Yes. I was like, oh my God, like without even really thinking about it, I had just been like popping my knuckles. It's like a fucking habit that I have when I'm like focused. And anyway, so there's like just little moments like that.
Was it like a friendly note?
Super friendly. It was like, you might, I might pick up your bones, and as you leave with how much you're cracking your knuckles or something along those lines.
That's funny.
But I wanted to talk about also just when you give yourself the space to digest memories and these like thoughts that are never ending in your head. A lot of things for me started coming up, just like things from childhood
Of
and
course.
people in my life. Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly. I think that for me, I feel like leading up, and I did like my Vipassana retreat. It'll be a year in this upcoming September, so like around 9 months ago. And at the time, I was definitely, I would say, in like a pretty tumultuous place, going through kind of like a really deep heartbreak and kind of like a big like life transition and life change in that way. Um, and I feel like a lot of my preconceptions around like love and attachment and kind of the whole like fundamental underpinning of the way that I viewed the world and the way that I viewed like a conscious, like this conscious experience, I would say like shifted pretty majorly. Um, Really kind of stemming down to the idea of objectivity. And what I mean by that is like things existing in an objective way, like things existing from their own side. I think that for so much of my life, and a lot of these changes, I think, started to kind of culminate in the years leading up to the retreat, and then everything felt like kind of simultaneously like exploded and then recrystallized like during that experience and in the wake of that experience. But I think I know I went through so much of my life kind of thinking about reality in an objective way. Like this is my lived experience. This is the perception I have of something. And this perspective I have of something is intrinsically the way that it is, like existing from its own side, right? Like if you experience something painful, it's really easy to say, oh, you know, this person's unkind or this experience is intrinsically bad, right? Um, and because that is like the apparent truth of the situation, like that is how reality appears to be. It appears to come from something towards us. And I think through my experience in meditation and through the wisdom of teachers that I have in my life, I've come to kind of internalize and live with like a totally radically different perspective from that, which is that actually everything is intrinsically empty. And what I mean by empty is not anything with a negative connotation. It just simply means that nothing intrinsically exists from its own side. And what I mean specifically by that is that if something existed from its own side in its own way, objectively or intrinsically, like this tree, for example, we can look at this tree, each of us, and have a different perception of how it makes us feel. If this tree had its own intrinsic nature, its own objective nature, we would look at it and we'd have the exact same perception of it. But surely that can't be possible because we both have different perceptions. And so that begs the question of, okay, well then what drives those perceptions? Like what is like the fundamental like underpinning force that drives those perceptions that we have of not only this tree but literally every single thing in every single second. And what I believe is that every single perception we have is literally and simply a manifestation of energy that we've brought into this world through our actions, through our words in this life and lives past. In a way where like every single action, thought, idea, way that we move through the world plants a seed in every single microsecond and like the conscious and like the fertile field of our consciousness. And this entire lived experience, every single perception we have, I believe, is simply those seeds that we've planted, the energy of them rising and blooming in a way that literally directly drives our perceptions. And so for me, I think during my retreat, I really kind of experienced that, like understood that not only like intellectually, but also began to experience it, like began to understand it experientially as well. And for me, it's actually really, even though it's kind of daunting to say like, oh man, like every single thing that's shitty that ever happened to me, like I directly caused, that can be kind of scary and overwhelming. But at the same time, I think it's actually really empowering and really beautiful because it actually gives us like radical accountability to totally create a world that we want to see by simply just being kind to others and, moving through the world in a way that has, love and integrity and care. And so that was really, to sum it up, I think the fundamental underpinning of my experience in Vipassana and really just letting go of any expectation of others, letting go of any fixed objective attachment and simply just saying like, all I'm gonna focus on is process, and I'm just gonna like let the chips fall where they may from a results
Yeah.
perspective.
Dude, so well said.
Thank you.
I think that's a great frame, and it kind of begs the question of like maybe even karma being at play. You know,
Totally.
like
I mean,
those
that's
seeds
exactly
is
what it is.
yeah. That's kind of where my head went.
Of course,
is,
that's exactly that's literally
what goes
exactly
around
what
comes
I think.
around.
Yeah, of
and
course.
that is part of the teaching as well.
Of
Like,
course, yeah.
do you feel like you resonated completely with the teaching of Dhamma and Vipassana, or do you feel like there were things about it? And just as context too, like one of the coolest parts, in my opinion, was its non-sectarian nature. So it's a universal truth, meaning any religion can distill their principles and have a lot of ties to Vipassana. And in the meditation hall, there were Jews, there were Muslims, there were Hindus. And that to me was like the coolest part is there's
Yeah.
no pushing you towards, a certain God or founder of a religion. It's basically like everything you need is within you, and what they call turning within to the, I think the heaven within is what they call it. But I'm curious, like, did that all then inform your perspective moving forward? And were there any things that you disagreed with about, the teaching?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like, I love the non-sectarian nature of it. And, Buddhism and a lot of these wisdom teachings, like they were never meant to be religions. Like Buddhism, like when it was started, was never a religion. It was just an exercise of like logic. Like it was kind of like a exercise in logic and philosophy, and has come to be understood as a religion. But really, I don't think that that's actually the true like meaning or underpinning. And yeah, I mean, I think the like flavor of that taught in Vipassana, I definitely connect with. There's definitely like parts of some of the discourses that I just like didn't feel personally, super connected to. But I think wholesale, like I really agreed with like, like a lot of the fundamentals of everything. And I really do love and I forget the exact analogy that was used in the discourse, but if something doesn't connect with you or resonate with you as a part of this, spiritual philosophical system, just kind of pluck it out and just table it. You know what I mean? Don't let it kind of sully your entire perception or like let it discount everything. And I think in life that's actually like a really great way to kind of move through the world. I think that things are a lot more nuanced than we usually lend them credit to be. And but yeah, no, I think by and large I felt pretty deeply connected to it all. And for the record, that whole worldview that I previously described is not an original thought at all. That is very much so wisdom that I've gathered from teachers that I've had and studying different philosophies and yoga and Buddhism and different wisdom traditions and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I agree, man. I think the Buddhist nature of it is enticing, but this idea that you don't need to take the whole dish, you can just take components or ingredients that you like and make your own dish, I think was very appealing. It wasn't like it felt more organic, which I think resonated a lot. But for me,
and so like not pushy.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Like, hey, give this a chance.
For sure.
Switch this around. Like, how does this feel?
Yeah. It was extremely challenging for me at times. Obviously, the physical pain, like I felt like I had ego death and had a lot of memories surface that were like challenging. But I'm curious for you, did it feel, besides the physical pain, like you were comfortable most of the time, or did you have your own battles? I know you mentioned love and your experience of that. Were there other things that came up, or was that the primary, hurdle that you kind of worked through?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I would say that whole kind of shattering of worldview was definitely kind of coincided with like almost like and I mean this in a beautiful way. Like I feel like my heart had so much like attachment and like pain and expectation, kind of like rooted in its core, that almost that shift in worldview kind of, it was almost like the heart that I had and like the heart that like moved through the world and the way that it passed through kind of, like puffed into like some sort of like mist, and I almost felt like I had to kind of build in like a beautiful way, in such an empowering way, like rebuild my, you know, perspective on love and the world, and kind of what causes this lived experience, in a way that I feel like I can show up so much more fully, and so much more, you know, seeing things with what I think is like a more correct and clear like worldview, in a way that's been like very empowering for me and very just beautiful in my own life. So yeah,
Dude, the loss of attachment, I think, was a big one too.
of
Like
course.
in any like entrepreneurial endeavor too, like part of my ego death was like, holy shit, bro, you have a long fucking way to go.
Yeah, of
And
course.
use that instead of, you know, being like this heavy weight to carry, more like empowering, you know, and be
Yeah.
like, I'm going to be consistent, work hard, and do my best to be creative, and
Yeah.
the rest will take care of itself. To your point on the seeds, you know, like you're
course.
planting your seeds,
Yeah.
and if you water them every day, like ideally they turn out, but sometimes shit happens, and that's okay. There's
Yeah.
beauty in that.
Yeah, and who knows the lag time, right? Between the seeds that we plant and when they come to fruition.
For sure.
Like that's such a non-linear thing. Were there any like mini moments from your
Oh,
experience
dude,
that you like
yeah.
care to share? Like, I'm so curious and would love to kind of hear, you know, a taste of any moments that kind of felt like quintessential moments to your experience.
Dude, a couple different ones. So number one, there was this guy that I had a through line to the backyard, like the entrance of the forest
Nice.
from my window.
Oh,
and so every
beautiful.
night, right before the final meditation, this guy, thinking it was like dark enough to where nobody could see, he would like sneak out and do pull-ups and max out his pull-up reps. And so
On the clothing lines?
Yeah, dude. They had like these wooden you know, things that were holding up the lines themselves.
Yeah.
Like wooden blocks.
I can picture that whole compound
I bet you can, dude.
so vividly, because you're just so attentive. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, of course.
And so anyway, man, every night he would like push his limit.
Yeah.
And I would count his reps from my window. You know?
Isn't it amazing what we do when
Dude.
we don't have these like little phones to fucking rot on?
Yes.
You're like, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
It was such a beautifully unique interpretation of like never talking to this guy in my life.
Yeah, of course.
But starting to just understand his mind so much better.
And how quickly things become so ritualistic too.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
And it was a highlight for me to see this guy like push himself every night.
Of course.
Another one that I'll share.
That's awesome.
There was a gentleman, you know, like probably mid 50s.
And wait, just to circle, for 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
How, and like, didn't you feel like, I imagine you must have felt such a beautiful bond to this
Exactly.
person.
Yes.
Like,
Which is
so deeply connected. And
for
like,
sure.
like when we just let our mind, like, isn't it beautiful? Like what just kind of comes to fruition?
Yes.
It's like so, and if we were in a different situation, you never fucking think twice
Right.
about that.
Yeah,
you
because
know what
I'd
I mean?
be like 9 p.m.,
Yeah.
you know, 10 days before this retreat, I was like on my phone or on my laptop, thinking about other things. And so it gives you the opportunity to look at life through a different lens.
Totally.
Another one, which I'm sure you experienced too, that to me was like so moving, was seeing grown men between the ages of like 40 and 70 walking on this path through a forest and literally getting on their knees to smell flowers.
Yes.
Pick things, smell flowers, just like so observant. You know, like it was extremely common to just be walking and see somebody like staring up at the trees.
Of course.
Like if you were walking in Central Park and you saw that, you'd be like, this guy's probably high, you know?
Yeah.
But in this experience, it's like completely normal because you start to rely on just like your own internal intuition and curiosity.
Totally.
So those were a couple things. I have a laundry list of them, but
Yeah. Actually, now like that we're so talking about it, and I've kind of been feeling inklings of this already, but I think once I close this round of fundraising for Prana, I'm going to like, before I kind of like hard ramp up, I might try to do another Vipassana retreat and really center myself before the next chapter. So,
yeah. It has this funny way of like calling you back in, like already.
Yeah.
Number one,
of course.
you want to pull in family and friends.
Yeah.
Like that was a big part for me. But then also you're like, damn, it's almost like an addictive feeling because you come back to society and you start ramping up and you're like, as challenging as it is.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? And how are you doing like re-entering into modern society? Like I remember I got back on like and I'm like a huge, from Philly, huge Eagles fan. I like got back from like the 10-day retreat and I was like, the Eagles are on. Like I'm gonna like watch a football game now. Like, what am I even gonna do with my life? Like, it's like such a crazy fucking like you just like are like shot out of this spiritual can, and then you land back in New York City, and you're like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Dude, the funniest line. So there's a gentleman across from me who is like, I find out to be, head of a LatAm portfolio at a huge bank on Wall Street.
Yeah.
His first question, he looks at me after silence breaks. He's like, do you know what happened with the tariffs? And I was like, welcome back.
Oh, dude, that's so funny.
And then somebody next to me was like, Knicks are down, 2-1 to the Pacers. I was like, holy shit, it's coming back. But integration, man, I think has been good. Like I feel myself.
You just got back.
Yeah, like literally Sunday, which is why I'm so grateful to catch you before you head to London.
Dude, that's so incredible. Wow, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been good. Like trying to have a daily practice. They say hour in the morning, hour at night of meditation.
Yeah.
I've been doing an hour total.
That's
just breaking it up.
That's huge.
But yeah, if that can last, then I'll be happy. But more importantly, just like the reactive nature that I used to.
Yeah. And it's also just about like and this is like pretty cliche, but I think it's really true. It's just like also bringing it off the mat. Like just like letting it flow into just like the way that you move through your day.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Whether you're seated or not.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
On the meditation, Vipassana retreat note, anything else that we didn't cover that you wanted to dive into?
No, I mean, I would say to any of those who are listening to this and are intrigued, I'd say take the leap and just do it. Because I don't think I've ever met anyone that went through the experience and was worse off for it.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think I actually listened to a Tim Ferriss episode where he talks about his experience, and his experience was eye-opening to me. I heard it after, and he had like a psychotic break, and
I
had a really tough time.
Yeah.
So I think everyone's experience is different. I think it's really important to do your own research and know what you're getting into, because it is like
I didn't do that at
painful.
all. I actually I don't know if I think I told you this, but I like actually had no idea anything. I just signed up and showed up,
which
and was
is
like,
almost
all right,
helpful.
here we go.
But if you're listening to this and you're taking our word for it, do your research.
Yeah, maybe do research.
Or just go in blind, but be prepared to experience the chaos. Well, cool, man. I'm glad we could have this chat on the Vipassana. Pivoting gears a little bit, you've been an entrepreneur since day one. You dropped out of Temple, full ride scholarship at the time to pursue an agency. But a few years before that, maybe even a decade before that, you had a business with wallets.
Yeah,
you want to speak to that?
Yeah, no, totally. So, as you alluded to, definitely, not really sure where like building begins and I end. I feel like it's just so like deep, and always just has been so deeply intertwined with my identity and how I kind of naturally move through the world, that I kind of always just knew that this is what I wanted to do. But yeah, one of the first businesses I started was a duct tape wallet business, and I basically. I think for me, it's like the cathartic process of like having a vision for something, like it being something that exists in your mind, and then outlining the steps that you need to bring forth to see that thing to fruition, and then doing it, and then seeing it being like a living, breathing thing that's like interacting with the world, to me is like such a beautiful medium of expression. I feel like, being a founder is somewhere between, being a business person and being an artist. Like you kind of have to, I think it's like a very like spiritual process of like kind of bringing like something new into the world, like whatever it may be. And that's something that's been so deeply just like a part of my life. And so, yeah, when I was a kid, I basically like somehow learned about duct tape wallets. I think I learned about them through a friend. And I basically, I think it was in like 5th grade. I like went up to my parents and I was like, hey, I need a loan. I need you to like give me $100 and so I can buy all these rolls of duct tape, green, yellow, red, blue. And with each roll of duct tape, I'll be able to make X amount of wallets and I'll have like X return on investment and I'll pay you back. And they're like, damn, like, all right, I guess. And I was like, okay, great. So we go to Michael's and we buy like literally, I don't know, like fucking 10 rolls of duct tape, like a ton of duct tape. And I got an X-Acto knife. I get one of those little cutting mats And I basically just went to work and I just started designing and creating like all different sorts of duct tape wallets and purses and duct tape roses and all different sorts of things. And I would basically have my parents drive me all around the greater Philadelphia area. I grew up in Havertown, like right outside of Philly, and would go to, flea markets and little, holiday artisan pop-ups and basically peddle these wallets. And I actually remember the first time I ever came to New York City, because I've lived here in New York for the last 6 years. The first time I ever came to New York City, I was in 5th grade with my parents, and we took a Bolt bus from Philly to New York. And I begged my parents, them to let me bring my duct tape wallet supplies, a couple rolls, my X-Acto knife, my, little cutting board. And they were like, no, like you're not bringing your duct tape wallet fixins to New York. Like we're going on like a family vacation, dude. And I was like, come on, please. Like, I want to make them on the Bolt bus. And they were like, sure. So long story short, I just start making them on the Bolt bus, and all these beautiful, wonderful old ladies see me doing this, and on the back, they're like, what is this little kid doing? So they call me to the back of the bus, and I'm literally sitting with all of these ladies making them their own little wallets, and I ended up making like $60 or $70 just on that Bolt bus ride. And I went up to my parents and I was like, "See, I told you." And they're like, "All right, like when you're right, you're right." So, but no, I mean, I've always just been obsessed with building. And yeah, like to your point, that was a love that lasted from, the earliest days of my childhood, through being a teenager. I was, lucky enough to be exposed to a program called Junior Achievement, which is an awesome entrepreneurship focused nonprofit that I was a part of. And I think met a lot of like mentors that kind of, gave me a lot of the harder, skills of, running a business and kind of like learning these different things. And then, yeah, I was in high school running an agency called PHL Media, and basically was like a total no-show my whole senior year because I was running all around Philly, signing clients and making them websites and doing social media campaigns and all different sorts of stuff. And that kind of led into, going to Temple for a couple weeks. Met a lot of beautiful people there that I still keep in touch with, which is awesome, but I ended up dropping out pretty quickly. And first started this video sharing platform that totally failed. But it was like an amazing experience. I learned so much. And then very soon after that, when I was like, I guess had just turned, I just turned 21. I know it was actually, I guess when I was 20. Yeah, I just turned 20. Oh my gosh. Me and Alex Zachney, who is, shout out, one of my best friends in the world, more like a brother to me. We put our heads together and we started IV. He had like a great background in healthcare, had worked for Penn Medicine. And we basically, became super obsessed with the idea of sending nurses into people's homes to give them IV therapy and other services and stuff like that. And kind of, we met in high school when we were 14, in math class. He was like getting all pissed off at the teacher, and I was like, I really like this guy.
It's a good fit.
We just, we both were pretty, rambunctious, troubled kids, I would say. But we formed a great friendship and really went off to the races with IV, built a great team. And it was a fun roller coaster ride.
Wow. Yeah. So many different thoughts come about, but it's cool to know that there's like threads of entrepreneurship as you get older. And for you, jumping from Temple, where you have that full ride scholarship and you have a pathway to success and trusting yourself. I'm curious for you, what was like the moment where you were like, holy shit, like I think I can do this on my own, and putting that faith into yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean to be like trite or cliche, but it was really never like a choice. Like I didn't want to go to school. And it's so funny now because now, like in a vacuum, like obviously I'm doing prana stuff and I'm locked in on that, and that's my, life's mission. But in a vacuum at this point in my life, like I would love to, like I'm so much more open to the idea of being in that sort of environment, just like because I think it would be really fun for me to like learn about, all sorts of random shit. But at that point in my life, I think I was just so, I had such a just potent, fervent desire to just go strike out, and like I was like, I can fucking do this. Like, and I didn't really ever want to go, but it was like free, and so my parents were like, come on, just give it a shot. And I lasted a couple weeks. But it was never like there honestly wasn't a moment. Like I was like, all right, I'm here. I don't really like it, and so now I'm gonna go do my own thing. And I'm definitely not against college. I think for different people, like can be a great opportunity, and I think different strokes for different folks. But for me, it just was not jiving with my headstrong kind of like I need to get. Like I felt so eager to just go out and like build, like just hungry, ravenous. And so I channeled that energy, and
you start the creator. It was a competitor to YouTube, right? Or like tangentially.
Yeah. It was called Chord. And it was beautiful. I met some collaborators that I still work with today. One of my dearest mentors, friends, another person who is like a brother to me, Nick Parolo, who collaborated with me on this thing called Chord. That totally never made it anywhere. It was actually like it was kind of like a short form video platform, kind of like TikTok or like Vine.
But that was like early day. Like you were pretty relatively early. Like what were your main lessons for that? I know you dropped some wisdom on a podcast. You said something along the lines of like, the only failure in entrepreneurship is a failure that you don't learn from.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks a lot of volumes, because now you've gone on to successfully, build other businesses. So I'm curious, like that sounds like the first, real, girthy experience. Like what were your lessons walking away?
Totally. I mean, I think that like, one, I just saw the importance of like team foundation. There's just a lot of like we had like a extraordinarily, I think, like ambitious goal, which was to like dethrone YouTube. I remember at the time, this is like so funny and kind of cringe, but I think pretty great. I was like reading a bunch of like government psychology books, and I was like, I'm gonna create a sleeper cell within YouTube of creators that are all gonna. I was like reading like KGB, like what, like just like whatever, just like all sorts of random books. And I was like, I'm going to create a sleeper cell of like all the most powerful creators in YouTube, and have them all defect on the same day and like join and like this whole like crazy like marketing, stunt thing. And I ended up working with a lot of awesome YouTubers and creators who were pretty jazzed
to like,
about
what,
the
5
idea.
million follower or like reach.
Yeah. But ultimately we just didn't have the like technical infrastructure needed to bring it to fruition. It was also like, there's also like a whole blockchain component of it. And like, it was so, I mean, I don't know if there's any actual, blockchain based like application level technologies that have, really seen the light of day or been profoundly successful even to this day, that are true applications that exist outside of like trading crypto. But it just, the pieces just like weren't there. Like it was just one of those things where it was a really cool idea, but it was too early. We didn't have the right team. But I learned a fuck ton about fundraising, about what it takes to like build a real startup, like what the startup VC ecosystem even looks like. Like I got kind of put on to this whole new scene through that experience that kind of gave me a lot more comfort in navigating the world as a founder, in a way that I just didn't have in high school, running like a little website design, social media agency. It's just way different, arena. And so, that experience of Chord is still like a very dear, I mean, that company like never saw the light of day, but it was so much fun and beautiful experience. Then, very soon after that, fell madly in love with health and wellness, which is the space that I've been, living in now for the last 6 years. Yeah.
You and your co-founder for Ivy, kind of stumble upon this opportunity through a friend that had a pretty shitty like user experience.
Yeah.
Walk us through like the rise of that business, and COVID hits, like I know in the middle,
dude,
like
that was crazy. So like Alex and I came together, and we basically just wanted to create like a really cohesive, beautiful, easy experience of getting like at home, starting with IV therapy, and then we scaled into other services down the line. And yeah, we raised a little bit of, capital. We built out a technology platform. We built out a team of nurses. And yeah, for IVs, it's basically like Uber Eats or DoorDash, but for like IV therapy and like at home, wellness and medical services and stuff like that. But basically we kind of finalized everything, like ready to launch. And then it was March 2020 and COVID happened.
Oh
like,
my God.
Literally the
dude.
same, pretty much at the exact same time that we went out to want to launch.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were like, well, fuck, like the last thing anybody wants right now is a stranger, let alone a healthcare worker entering their home.
Dude.
Like it was COVID,
Brutal.
And so we were like running out of money and we were like, what the fuck are we going to do? So we pivoted to COVID testing. And we basically dropped everything. We became one of the biggest COVID testing providers in the state of New Jersey. We were doing stuff in Jersey, working with the government there. We were doing stuff in Pennsylvania. And dude, it was literally just by like sheer will and sheer determination. I mean, Alex and I were killing ourselves to keep this business alive. Like the only reason, and God bless that man's heart, like, building something when you have someone that you love and respect and can crack the fuck up with in the trenches with you at the end of the day makes life astronomically easier as a founder. And I thank my lucky stars that I got to collaborate with someone that I love and respect so much, who, I still talk to a couple times, like, all the fucking time, every day, a couple times a week, whatever. So anyways, we love tangent, love and gratitude tangent, but we basically pivoted everything, and it was just sheer will. Like I literally was cold calling any business that was still operational and asking them if they wanted to do COVID testing through IV. And basically, I think I fucking cold called like a gymnastics studio.
Wow.
That the kids were still practicing or whatever. And we got that contract, and then I called a different company and then got that contract. And it was like, that like thing when you start with a paperclip and you like trade up to like a, computer, like whatever the fuck it is. Like it was literally, 3 months later, we're now partnered with the city of Hoboken and facilitating the biggest like COVID testing, like mass COVID testing operation for that city. And so it was just one of those things where scarcity was kind of and it was insane, like that we were the ones that kind of rose to, fill that gap. But we did a lot of great work, and we tested thousands and thousands of people. And then as that kind of whole extravaganza of, that test, like hyper testing chaos period, like before the vaccines, as that kind of all wound down, we finally were able to start to get a little bit more traction on the core business. And like, I mean, right as we were running out of money, like literally right as we were running out of money, we closed our seed round, led by Accomplice and Rubik and Ludlow, which are 3 awesome funds that I really love and respect. But yeah, it was like it was just like I think, and this is true for like any startup, right? Like, there's going to be so many times when you're so close to being fucked, and you're so close to death. And really the difference, I think, between the startups that make it and the startups that don't, and this is painting in very broad strokes, but I think this is like a huge part of it, is, are you the type of person that is going to keep hanging on and fighting when things seem like they're completely sideways, or just kind of throw in the towel? And we never threw in the towel, even when maybe like we should have, like even when it was like getting to the point where we were like irrationally optimistic that we would find a way to make it work. And we ultimately did. And we went on to build, a business that helped many tens of thousands of people that still exist today. Build a great team of, many, many nurses and providers and great team members, marketers, engineers, what have you, and then ultimately was acquired by Hone Health, which is a great company in the longevity space. That has been crushing it. And so, yeah, it was a real roller coaster and an experience that, undoubtedly one of the most formative and beautiful chapters of my life. And I think really, I can't even tell you the amount of just knowledge and wisdom and storms that we went through to kind of get to the point that we did. And going and being back at square one and now starting a new venture, I feel like profoundly ready and excited because I know what kind of like lays ahead, and I feel so like battle tested and like ready for the next chapter. So
Yeah. Well, number one, congratulations, man. Like such a cool journey. And
Thank
to
you.
hear that it was capped off with an exit is beautiful. The core thread there for me is just your ability to adapt, right? To start to facilitate COVID tests, starting with a gymnastics studio,
So
working
random.
your way up to the city of Hoboken. Like that is scrappy, and also like, yeah, what you need to do. So, yeah, congratulations on the exit. And I wanted to start with your next endeavor. Obviously, like the world of wellness and community building, third spaces is very important and hot right now. But curious how much overlap and runway you think there is between commerce and wellness.
Yeah, I mean, just to zoom out and kind of paint the full picture, this has been a world that I've been um, undeniably obsessed with and passionate about now for a really long time. And when I feel like kind of my whole experience with IV, my whole experience as a founder throughout my whole life, I feel like has really led me to this, moment in time with Prana. Um, and Prana is a company whose mission is to basically make social wellness spaces as ubiquitous as cafes and bars. The intersection of social experiences and wellness experiences, I think, is to me like one of, if not one of the most exciting market segments right now. And I want to kind of zoom out before I even kind of dive into some of the brass tacks. I kind of want to explain why I even care so much about the space and why I'm so fundamentally excited about the next 10, 20 years of like what this space looks like. When I exited IV and was kind of, doing a lot of deep reflection and meditation on what my next chapter as a founder would be, what it would look like, what problem space I wanted to kind of attack, I really became so extremely excited about the mental health space. One, because on both like a personal, like micro level, something that has been a big part of my life. And then two, it's a fascinating macro level problem. And it's something that obviously is enormously prolific and complex. And the more that I kind of, studied the space and learned and read and talked to thought leaders, and I don't think this is an original thought either. And I think this is at this point pretty ubiquitous, but like, I think this mental health problem at its core is like a social health problem, like a lack of, in a very large part, I think is a lack of like richness and intimate connection in our lives socially, with our friends, with our loved ones. There's never been a lonelier time in like recorded history. Loneliness has extremely serious negative clinical implications on health. We have 70% less social interaction than we did just like 20 years ago. Like for me, this is like alarm bells going off. Like this is an enormous issue. And so I became really obsessed with that problem space, and I started to kind of think through all different applications of, what are solutions for this? Like what can actually have like a meaningful, like high impact on this problem as a whole. And you asked me before this podcast, how does it feel kind of transitioning from the tech space to kind of, this like more like brick and mortar, like wellness oriented space. at first I was thinking about all different, and thinking through different like tech related solutions. And for me, I think that ultimately this social health problem, you can't go under it, you can't go over it, you have to go through it. You literally need to facilitate experiences and places that facilitate in-person human interaction. I think that having that in-person component where you're looking at someone in the eyes, you're connecting, you're sharing that energy and presence, to me, I think is the most profound way to kind of cut through this issue as a whole, is just by very simply bring people together. And so I started to ask myself, what is the vehicle through which this vision can be achieved? And having been like a profound lover of sauna, cold plunge, bathhouse culture, I do hot yoga almost every day. Hot and cold has been a huge part of my life, and just seeing the sauna and cold plunge culture here in New York City explode, I began to see communal bathhouses as like a beautiful vehicle through which to bring this vision to fruition. And so Prana bathhouses, were born. And what Prana is it's a communal bathhouse that basically acts as the social fabric of the neighborhoods in which we operate. And we're basically looking to become the leading player, starting in London and then expanding all throughout Europe and then back to the United States. And basically creating experiences that consist of cold plunge and sauna and steam and social connection that are like really deeply rooted in nature. That's like an enormous component of what we're building, is like hyper nature inspired spaces, floor to ceiling moss walls, plant life everywhere, so that when you step in and you take a deep breath, it's like, oh my God, am I in like a fucking jungle? Like, I think that there's something really to be said for, we're lacking and we're so hungry for the social connection component. But I think living in a city, we're also so robbed of like these primal experiences in nature that make us feel so grounded and so okay. And I really want to combine those two things. And so we're doing something that I don't think anyone's really done before, which is creating these like hyper biophilic bathhouse experiences that are just like such a unique, like insane sensory experience. And I think we're really uniquely positioned to absolutely crush it. It's, me, one of the founders of Zoe, George Haji Giorgio, who's based in London, who is an absolutely incredible founder. He's a co-founder and investor on Prana as well. One of the most brilliant thinkers and founders I've ever had the great pleasure to work with, and then also collaborating alongside of Garrett Reifel, who is one of the founding partners of Bathhouse here in New York City. And so we really have an incredible foundation, incredible team, and we just closed $250,000 in pre-seed capital from some amazing investors, and now striking out to raise the seed to build location 1 in London.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, really the lens through which we're looking about this is really through the lens of loneliness, building social infrastructure, creating third places that are, solely dedicated to, facilitating beautiful, intimate, emotional connection between friends and loved ones, and creating spaces that are these like permissioned, intentional spaces that really bring that to fruition. And so, yeah, man, I am like, to be back at square one and really building for myself, like really building for myself. Like, this is something that I've been wanting to see in the world forever. I mean, like the relationship that I have with nature and being able to create a pocket of that in like an urban setting is like so exciting. Like, and so I am like, I feel like my whole body is just like coursing with energy, and I feel like this like laser focus and excitement. And I mean, I haven't been back on square one in a really long time. Like, to be at the precipice of this new like vision and this new journey alongside people I really care about and respect and love collaborating with is extremely exciting, and also very grateful for Adapt Ventures, who are like day zero investors as well, and who really help kind of shape this broader vision too. And so, yeah, man, it's really, really exciting to be back at it. I'm pumped.
I think splitting it up into talking about the problem and now the vehicle in which you're bringing it to life. is kind of a good way to think about it. Number one, on the problem side, you mentioned loneliness as like a key driver for you as to why you're tackling this problem.
Yeah.
What do you think got us to this place of loneliness throughout, big cities, but also just like around the world? Is it the attachment to social media and, constantly feeling like we're missing out on situations? Or are there other factors at play that you've seen in your research that make you feel called to tackle this issue?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's definitely a very complex, I think, situation with a ton of factors, like all contributing. But I think a really large part of it is this, just the deterioration of like community infrastructure, like in society. Like and I think this is like pretty true across like all different sorts of community driven organizations. Like even something like, religion being so much less prevalent than it was, 50 years ago. Like there used to be so many more ritualistic experiences that brought people together in a community that are just not mainstream commonplace experiences anymore. And I think that it's a lot easier to isolate oneself when we have all of this incredible stimulation that we're able to, basically fuel these high dopamine experiences where there's less of it's so much easier to not be bored, and to kind of entertain ourselves to death, so to speak, and kind of cash in on these like superficial kind of cheap, endorphin hormonal like hits than it is to kind of, make deep social investments. I think it's a lot easier to isolate oneself nowadays. I think that there's less societal infrastructure that forces us to be social nowadays. Even looking at like fucking like retail, like we used to like go and like talk to someone in like the coffee shop to like order a drink, and that still is like a thing broadly, but like you can kind of like put in an order, go and grab it and like dip. Friction in a lot of ways creates these like little social experiences, right? When you take away that friction, you optimize shit into oblivion, you reduce that social friction, and you kind of like lose these like really beautiful little moments of like connecting with others. And I feel like it's like optimization of like life. One, like we don't have to go to the grocery store and like look at people. We can just sit in our home and fucking order Instacart. Like, and I'm not saying that these things are bad, right? I'm just saying that they're a part of a broader societal shift, optimization, crumbling of intrinsically communal and social institutions that used to kind of govern our daily lives more. It just being easier to isolate oneself. I think these are all factors that are kind of driving, just lonelier human experiences.
Yeah. And will probably only become more easy to isolate oneself.
100%.
Which is, to your
100%. And this is why, from a market opportunity, I know that prana can be an enormous business.
Mm-hmm. Social
wellness and wellness experiences are growing extraordinarily fast, over 10% year over year, 12.5%. This is a space that it's kind of like the pendulum is swung back and people are like, holy fuck. Like I am like, it's like almost like we kind of have like begun to wake up and we're like, oh damn, like I actually really do want to invest in these sorts of experiences. And you're seeing that. I mean, look at rock climbing gyms, pickleball, like bathhouse culture. Like these are all things that are exploding. These are intrinsically social, physical wellness experiences, right? And to your point, I think you're nail on the head. As we kind of continue to have a life that is so much more deeply intertwined with technology, and I think that AI is going to fuel that even further, which I think, for the record, is very exciting and beautiful, and a ton of amazing and great things are going to come from that. Like, I am pro-technology for sure. I just also think that in conjunction with that innovation, we need to make a deeper investment, and there's going to be a higher premium on experiences that allow you to really ground yourself socially, and make like a deep investment in that space. And I think it's only going to be more and more and more important to make sure we balance that out within like our own lives in order to have a society that's kind and loving and connected. Because when we don't see, like, it's so much easier to be hateful and angry and cynical when you're not interacting with people. You know what I mean? Like there really is something to be said for like just having that connection, having that love and care in your life, and you know, interacting with others. I think brings a lot more richness and beauty into life, and richness and beauty is, a life is that's the kind of life that I want to lead. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I think very well said. The ritualistic components that have been stripped away from our society for a large part, like especially church and things like that, 20, 30, 40 years ago, every Sunday, more probably of the population had, the same people that they were interacting with. And that's why you see the rise of like community and run clubs and
totally,
dinner parties
totally.
and third spaces more broadly, as well as like bathhouses. So I think you're hitting the nail on the head with that. I want to talk a little bit about the experience itself that you envision. So I love the nature component, observing you and, how much you crave the outdoors with rock climbing, and, just adventuring up north, often. And, intertwining that with the experience itself is incredible, man, because
Thanks,
in a
dude.
big city, it's really hard. Like in New York, you go to Central Park, maybe, and some of these other parks, but you're still like, even sitting on this rooftop, like hearing, this cranking sound next to us, this guy just ramming a hammer. It's like, you just get used to it.
Yeah.
But having like a space where you're reminiscent of nature, just like
Yeah.
is naturally probably so calming. So walk me through how you envision the experience. We'll start there.
Yeah, no, 100%. So I'm a big believer in order to create like a truly natural social experience. I really don't want to impose too much rigidity or structure onto the experience as a whole. I really want it to be something where the people coming with their friends and loved ones, they bring energy into the space and they occupy that vessel and they create the experience, the energy that they're bringing. And what I mean specifically by that is a very free flowing circuit between hot and cold in a prana. And so the way I envision it is, you arrive with a couple of friends, you get checked in with our reception, very earth tone driven aesthetic. Like I said, very biophilic, a lot of natural light on the ground floor, plant life like everywhere, like every inch of this place that can sustain plant life in some way, shape, or form will. You get checked in, you move, you change into your bathing suit, and kind of in like a flow. So it's not going to be like bi-directional flow. I really want to move people through the experience, very almost like a river, kind of like pulling you through. Then you enter the amenity space, and the amenity space is going to be and we're going to build like a whole bunch of these. We're looking at a couple locations right now in London that I'm really, really excited about. But the amenity space, we're envisioning it being a very open air lounge vibe. So very like not kind of like closed, like small hallways, like very open and higher ceilings. And we're going to have a Finnish sauna in location one, a Moroccan hammam, a cold plunge, and a neutral pool. And the idea is that instead of kind of having instructors that are like moving you from amenity to like really let people like we'll provide guidance as far as doing a circuit, but really letting people move through with their friends at their own pace, having intimate conversation, very kind of like I want to create a space that when you're moving through it and you're sitting in it, it feels like it's giving you a hug. Like it feels like you're like enveloped in this like kind of like jungle, like plant life, like oasis, this kind of like secret little like hideaway.
I love that analogy.
Thank you. And so, yeah, the idea is that, you enter the space and you basically move through the amenities from hot to cold to neutral, and then back again, kind of at your own pace, at your own circuit, alongside your friends and loved ones, and, staying there for a couple hours, unwinding, communicating, lounging, just having like a deeply social, energetic vibe to it.
Will there be like music, or are you anticipating just kind of having like a quiet kind of
Yeah,
nature-esque
there'll be like soundscapes.
soundscapes?
There'll be sound, and we have some really cool ideas there that we're kind of still ironing out. We're not gonna have like music, but definitely occupying the space with, you know, intentional sound is gonna be a huge component. Yeah.
I love it. I'm curious how you landed on free flow, because there's in New York in particular, obviously getting this co-founder George, but then also the gentleman Garrett that is part of Bathhouse, huge get. Bathhouse is a great facility, but then you also have Othership, which does like breath work classes. It's almost like when you go to the gym versus when you go to like a niche class. Curious your guys' thought process on free flow versus like the class orientation.
Totally. I think it's just a taste thing.
Yeah.
As a user, I don't love, like, I'm not a huge personal fan of like a structure, like a rigidity, like an imposing experience. I think there's obviously like great product market fit for that, and that is a model that has success. But I think that I'm not convinced there's as much staying power with that sort of experience. I think that free flowing, bathhouse culture has been around for thousands of years, and I think that it's easier to kind of connect with friends and loved ones and like have truly like rich experiences and conversations when you're not beholden to like a imposed experience. And that's not a knock on anything. I think that there's like room for all different sorts of experiences, but for the specific flavor and like essence and tone I want prana to embody, having that kind of free-flowing nature is something that for me is like very important for the space as a whole.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I personally don't have a preference. I think mixing it up is great, but the idea of getting a hug while going to one of these spaces, like obviously not actually getting a hug, but like that feeling.
No, totally.
Is,
being held.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Incredible, and something that the world needs more of. So I'm excited about you. As people leave the space, what feeling are you hoping people feel so that they ultimately come back?
Yeah. I've thought about this so much, and I think that's a really beautiful question. I really want people to leave feeling like a grounded sense of like fulfillment.
Yeah, I think that.
And I don't want to overcomplicate it, honestly. I really think that that's kind of the core of it. I want people to feel like their cup has been filled.
Yeah, just a mental cleanser almost.
Rejuvenation. Yeah.
A little getaway, if you will.
Yeah. Really feeling like recentering and regrounding in a beautiful social connection, and also in one's body, like physiologically. It's like there's so many incredible clinical benefits of hot and cold, and then also in communion with nature as well.
Yeah.
Those three kind of pillars of fulfillment are the things that I am really trying to kind of like capture with the
magic sword.
Yeah,
man, I love it. Curious, you've successfully found several co-founders that you jive with very well. It's obviously a process that a lot of entrepreneurs go through. What do you look for, and why do you feel you've been successful with finding co-founders over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just such a vibes-driven thing. Like, I don't know if I think that like a fundamental level of like trust and respect and like feeling of like, I want to be in a room with this person at 2 a.m. when shit's not working, like, is to me like the most important thing. Like having, I think, a shared value system as far as like what's important and what's what's less important. And for me, that's acting with integrity that's, you know, high value on experience and intention, like for the mission and the vision. And that's people that are just like really, really fucking good, you know, like, and so it's hard. I definitely count myself extraordinarily lucky to have been able to collaborate and work with so many incredible people across the things that I've built. And I think that it really comes down to, yeah, just a fundamental level of trust and respect. It's such a vibes driven thing. Like it's hard to capture in words.
Yeah.
I think another huge part of it for me and thinking about it too, because I don't know if I've ever really stopped to think about it in like a logical way. Like for me, it's just such a feelings driven, you know, experience. Also, of course, you know, matching up, you know, skill sets and competencies and all that stuff. But that's the easy stuff to kind of, you know, feel
Check
out.
the box.
The harder stuff is like that more, because it's, you know, it's a very intimate thing.
Yeah.
It's like
the amount of time you spend.
It's a very intimate, to bring something new to fruition. It's like a serious undertaking. I think that communication and honesty is like, I mean, I don't think it's different than like choosing a life partner.
Yeah.
Like, or like, you know, like being in like a romantic relationship in a lot of ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that, or any relationship, frankly, you know, friendship or otherwise, like, I think that communication and being radically honest in a kind and open way is like, for me, has always been the most, like, one of the most important things to making a co-founder relationship work, or any relationship, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, being honest when it's easy, being honest when it's difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And just taking radical accountability, you know, like for your actions and how you show up, and, you know, willing to, I think, really give the benefit of the doubt, and I think communication. I mean, I know it's like kind of cliche, but I really do believe that like that's like any sort of relationship kind of lives and die on, and not just like easy communication, but hard communication and honest, like bleedingly honest communication about vulnerabilities, about insecurities, about worries, about fears, you know, about the hard shit that might be, that you might clench up a little bit when you think about talking about. I feel like those are the things that, once you can kind of like create a level of like safety and trust around those darker parts, I feel like that's when the real magic starts to happen. Like that's when you can really get super creative and super excited. When you have that level of collaborative trust, like I see you, you see me.
And you're getting all of me.
Exactly. That's when we can really run, you know? And to me, like, I also just love people. Like I'm a very like emotion first, you know, like leader. Like I love connecting. I love people. You know, everything, I try to do everything in my life in the service of others. You know, I fail, but I try my best.
No.
We all do, you know, we all fall short, but I really do like try to go through life in that way. And I think there's a level, I think I also have like, and this is something that I think is kind of funny and sometimes I think throws people off, but I think I have a level of sincere earnestness that's just like, I just fucking like love building, and I love people, and I just want to build cool shit with people I love. Like,
you're authentically you in a lot of ways too, you know?
Thank you.
You live very openly, and I think you kind of have to as an entrepreneur, you know?
Yeah, or else you're going to be miserable as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. You can't live two different lives, and you need that radical transparency and communication in order to succeed. And
because it's so easy to tell
yeah,
when someone's trying to put on a front or
for sure,
you know, put on an act or something.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're all going to fucking die.
Yeah.
Like, we're all going to die. What are we doing wasting our time pretending? Like,
yeah. To be somebody that you're not.
Yeah.
I deeply, deeply admire the way that you also talk about creativity, and have searched on your own to find, you know, these own vessels of art outside of business. But you've also brought it into your own world with Prana, like for instance, with this nature and leaning into that. How do you balance creativity with getting things done in a way that, you know, where you're still respecting the art of business,
Yeah.
and maybe you don't have enough budget to really like tap into your full creativity, but how do you balance those things? Because I swing too far on the creative side at times, and then let that get in the way of like just getting shit done when it needs to get done or making money. How do you find that healthy balance?
That's a really good question. I think that my default mode is so like, I think speed for me and action is like such a so fundamentally underpins like my founder energy. Like I'm so like aggressive with like speed. Like I want to bring things to fruition. Like I hate. I'm an impatient. And this is something I've really worked on in my spiritual life. But baseline. I think I'm a very impatient person. Like I love to go. Mm-hmm. And so I think my fundamental baseline is very action oriented. So I think that for me is like a helpful. It's almost like a limit. You know what I mean? And like I really try to temper like different. I don't know. It's such a vibes driven thing. It feels like it just weaves together like super organically. Mm-hmm. I think there's like that whole energy that I just described, and then I think that like that kind of combines with that just like this like very like like this like creative like love, because creativity and love for me are like so connected. I can't pull them apart. I feel like those two forces collide, and then they create something, and then it either like, and then you like put it all out on paper and you look at it, and it's like it either works or it doesn't economically, right?
Yeah.
And so it's almost like those two things.
That's an after the fact kind of like outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like those two things kind of collide and create something. And then I evaluate the commercial component, and then I make a decision.
Yeah.
And then I see which lever I need to kind of like push or pull in one direction or the other. But for me, it's actually really interesting. Like, it's a very integrated experience. It's not like a siloed one. Mm-hmm. And of course, you need to use all of those different components as a lens. But for me, it's like I really try to I don't try to put my creativity in a box. I kind of let my creativity run, and I usually do have kind of like a frantic sense of urgency to push it forward. And then once it feels like I've closed a loop on an idea or a concept or a model, then after I've like let it be its expression, then I evaluate it, and then I'm like, okay, this is the weakness of this is the strength of this, and then I kind of fine tune it and like look at the levers that I need to pull and push. But that's kind of my like process. I don't know if that makes any fucking sense.
Oh, dude, it's a layer of respect I have for that thought process, because it's putting the creativity first, the love first, the passion, and then economically making it work or finding something else that is your true expression.
Yeah.
And sometimes creative constraints I think can be important where you're operating within a budget. But to your point, like love and creativity intertwined to create something beautiful that is truly LJ is the only way you want to fucking live, man.
Yeah, no, it's
true. And that
true.
is powerful.
Yeah.
When you as a human can do that and bring something to life under that lens, bro, that's to me why we live, is finding those things and letting our true expression come out. Because to your point, we're all going to fucking die.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, I don't want to like pull any punches or like not be me, because I don't know. Like, why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty fucking boring.
Yeah. You talk about the urgency that you bring. What does your creative process look like? Are you just throwing a bunch of shit on the wall, or do you have like a certain place that you like to work from when you're thinking creatively, or is it just kind of like you don't even think about it? It's just like ideas come through, you start doing some market tests, industry expert calls, like stuff like that.
Yeah, it's definitely like super esoteric. I feel like it's also just like, it's not like it's like one like moment or like space that I go to or like thing. I just feel like it's like so integrated into just like everything. Like kind of just like this like continuous like unfolding.
Is there a time where you feel most creative, like when you're rock climbing, for instance, or in nature?
Definitely in nature.
Yeah.
Definitely moving my body for sure. During meditation. Yeah. I think for me too, I'm a person who has like so much energy that if I don't move my body or do things, you know, on a day-to-day basis that are healthy outlets to exert that energy, I think it can be, you know, like I get off kilter. And so because I'm just such a, you know, I just have a lot of energy. Always have. I think that's why school was always so hard for me too, because I can't sit still. Like, I think that having experiences where I'm able to expend that energy, like for me, hot yoga has been life changing. Like things like that, where doing bathhouse has been, you know, life changing. Sauna, cold plunge, like experiences where I can let that energy kind of flow through me in a healthy way and not let it become stagnated. For me is like usually when I feel like I'm clicking on all cylinders. Like when I'm able to let that prana, because that's prana, life force. Yeah. That's what prana means.
Oh,
it means energy. It means life force. It means breath.
So cool.
Yeah. When I feel my prana moving through me in that, you know, like centered way, that's when I kind of feel like I'm firing on all cylinders creatively, and like my thoughts are coming from a place of like truth. And I definitely don't feel like these things come from me. I feel like I'm a vessel, like for just energy that is. And I think that that's true for all people, really. I think that if we kind of sit back and like study it and feel it, yeah, it's like what life's all about.
And importantly, just being in touch with that channel.
Yeah.
And having an antenna that is aware, and give yourself space to be able to feel those ideals and then bring them to life.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a timeline for location number 1?
Yeah. So we're like looking at sites right now. We're like, I literally just had my first conversations for the seed this week. Just closed the pre-seed out.
Booyah.
Yeah. Fun little like angel friend, you know, cool founder people around. So yeah, I mean, we should close on our location around the, you know, the summer, and hopefully doors open, you know, around like 1 year from now. So
wow.
Yeah.
Well, man, I am so excited for your next journey, and deeply, deeply admire your craft and what you've built, but also just who you are. And in walking into the coffee shop today and seeing you solve a Rubik's Cube that was on the counter within 2 minutes, man, I was very quickly reminded of like how pure your soul is, and just like seeing that problem and just immediately like within 2 minutes we were done. And I was like, what in the world? Like, you have such a beautiful soul as well, man, which to me speaks more than all this other stuff. So I'm excited for you. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to say?
No, man, just always such a deep pleasure communing with you and spending time with you. I really, you have such a beautiful energy, and
thanks,
to be able to share presence in this way and just chop it up, it's a real treat. So
hell yeah.
Very grateful.
Where can people follow along the journey of LJ? We'll obviously link your website and LinkedIn, but
yeah, follow me. I mean, I'm not like a major social media guy, but on Instagram, LJ_Troilo, on LinkedIn, LJ Troilo. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And
follow that Prana Bathhouse.
There we go.
Yeah.
If you're ever
have
in
to get
London,
that one ripping once we're that's gonna be made. I'm pumped about
summer 2026.
Yeah.
Right on, dude. Well, thank you for coming out. I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you, homie.